Hello. My name is Tiara Nicole Riley. I'm a motivational speaker, a 5-time published author, transitional life coach, and the founder of Rethinking Me, a life coaching firm. Very excited to be kicking off this series. I am so excited to be starting the new year. It's 2024, and we are talking about intentionality. So, the first video that I had to drop in our intentionality series is about parenting, intentional parenting. Why? Because being Kayla's mama is my favorite title known to my life. Like literally, I've had many of titles. I've had cheer coach, I've had cheer judge, I've had, life coach, I've had business coach, I've had, HR manager. I've had so many different roles and titles. Being Kayla's mama. Oh, and so forth. Hey, y'all. Being Kayla's mama is my favorite title, period, hands down. So, what better way to kick off an intentionality series than to talk about intentional parenting? Because I am a very intentional parent and have been since the second I thought I might be pregnant. Okay, let's get into it. The first thing that I want to say is I'm very intentional about the energy that is surrounding my child. What do I mean by that? What I mean is I make an intentional effort to make sure that whoever is around my child is very much wants to be around her and is excited to be around her. And I do have um, to in some instances, like advocate for her with regards to energy management. What do I mean by that? It's twofold. So the first part of that is making sure that the adults around her are not projecting what I would consider negative energy. Like I had to say to a family member, I said, "Are you holding a grudge with a 2-year-old?" Like I had to verbally say those words because that's what you're literally holding a grudge with a 2-year-old who has no concept of memory. Like this 2-year-old has no recollection of what you're referencing, but you're holding a grudge with a 2-year-old? Let's not do that. Right? And making sure that we aren't emotionally bleeding um, on her. Right? Like you could be having a bad day, but that doesn't mean you need to take it out on my kid. I could be having a bad day. I refuse to take it out on my kid. Right? And the other side of that, as far as advocating for her emotional management, is making sure that it is intentionality around giving her space to be an emotional human. Right? After all, she is my child, and I'm a very emotional human. But even beyond that, she's entitled to have her emotions. She's entitled to have her feelings. I help her learn how to communicate those feelings. I make an intentional effort to walk her through those processes. Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you scared? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Like, let's help them. Now, at the end of the day, my job as her parent is to teach her emotional management. I cannot teach what I am not capable of doing, what I am not capable of demonstrating, right? If I do not have my emotional management in place, I will accidentally bleed on my child. A lot of people who love their kids are bleeding on their children because they haven't regulated their own emotions, and then they project those emotions onto children that have nothing to do with it, right? And kids are very sensitive to energy. So I'm also mindful of that when when we're around whoever. It really doesn't matter, friends, family, stranger. I genuinely do not care who insert person is. If you are in a funk, me and my kid can come back at another time. And that's okay. No hard feelings, no love lost. However, I will not let you use my child as an emotional punching bag. Won't do it. Right? And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I actually have my bachelor's degree in psychology. And in the course of attaining my psychology degree, I, of course, had to take a number of child psychology classes and learned a lot of things that really shape how I am as a parent. And so while we're taking all these Lamaze classes and while we're taking all these birthing classes and all these things, I really think just as much as they push for these Lamaze classes, which for the record, your body will tell you what you need in that moment. There's no real way to prepare for birth, but whatever. As much as we are pushing for Lamaze classes, even more so, we need to be pushing for parenting classes that include some level of child psychology. There is so much that I learned in college that I am using every single day, and I think that contributes me to being a better parent. I really do. The the number one thing that I walked away from in my college days was the attachment theory. And understanding the attachment theory has made me a better mother, tenfold, hands down. Period. And I'm gonna pause here. If you are a psychology major, psychologist, therapist, even social workers, and you have kids, please drop in the comments. Let me know I'm not crazy. Like, let me know I'm not crazy and making this up. Like, I truly believe that education is contributing to a better parenting experience for my child, right? My child has a better mother because I took those classes. Drop it in the comments. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know that too. Like, I feel like there's a connection, but I could be just making that up. Anyways, the attachment theory. The attachment theory is something that I was hyper focused on and very intentional about, particularly in the first 18 months of my child's life. My goal from the second I found out I was pregnant to her, she's about 2.5 at the time of this recording, but I was really, really, really hell bent on developing a secure attachment for my daughter from the time I found out I was pregnant to 18 months. The attachment theory, and I'm gonna run it through real quick. And if you don't believe me, just hit Google. I promise you, Google got the answers, right? The attachment theory, in its summary, right? Your attachment style is developed within the first 18 months of your life. Some say 2 years, but the first 18 months are critical, right? So during the first 18 months of your life, now mind you, this is before tangible language, right? Where you're able to have verbal conversations and back and forth and things like that. In the first 18 months of your life, your attachment style is developed. That attachment style sticks with you for pretty much the rest of your life. And it shapes how you interact with any kind of relationship. So the relationship that you feel that you had with your primary caretaker for the first 18 months of your life then shapes how you show up in friendships, how you show up in work relationships, how you show up in romantic relationships, right? And it's literally the child's perception of how well or not their needs were met on a consistent basis over the first 18 months of their life. So things like the cry it out method are counterintuitive to the attachment theory, which is scientifically based, right? So that's at its core, right? So ideally, you want a securely attached child. That is the only right answer. There are 3 other categories, but there's no better category for the other 3, right? Best case scenario is secure. Then you have other, unsecure. Unsecure has 3 different types of unsecure attachment styles, and there's no, oh, I'd prefer this over that. You prefer secure. You want your child to have a secure attachment style. And I actually discovered in this book called Attached, you can actually earn your secure attachment. And I actually think I personally am working towards that. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about parenting today. Anyways, so in the unsecure attachment style, you have anxious, you have avoidant, and you have disorganized, right? The easiest way to describe disorganized is it's kind of a hybrid between anxious and avoidant. Anxious people, when they experience problems, trauma, whatever, issues, right? When they experience a problem in a relationship, they get very anxious about it. They hyper focus on it. An anxious attachment style is my primary, but they have very, they overanalyze, they overthink, they are constantly looking towards how do I fix the problem? I want to talk about the problem. I got to deal with the problem. I got to address the problem. I got to come up with a plan for the problem, right? Like these are the anxious people. Avoidant people are when they can have the same problem, and they're inclined to say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to face it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just gonna go over here where the problem doesn't exist. And then again, the best way to describe disorganized is kind of like a hybrid, right? So, how do we get these attachment styles in the first place? Securely attached children believe that if I have a need, I can trust my primary caretaker to meet that need consistently. Maybe not every time, but I have a securely based foundation that if something is wrong with me, my primary caretaker will show up, meet the need, and fix the problem. Right? Anxiously avoidant babies are basically experiencing caretakers that sometimes meet the needs and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're warm and loving and caring, and sometimes they're tired and irritable and frustrated. Again, this is from the perspective of a newborn to 18 months, right? It doesn't matter what is, it doesn't matter what was, it matters how it was perceived. Avoidant attachment styles typically grew up in some form of abusive and or neglectful relationships with their primary caretaker. So these are the babies that felt like I can't depend on nobody to come meet my needs. Therefore, they start to like have this like negative interaction with relationships in general because you learn you can't depend on anybody. So you just stop depending on anybody, right? And then again, disorganized is kind of a little bit of both. Got it. Having that understanding of attachment theory guided me significantly in the first 18 months of her life and even while I was pregnant. Having that understanding of the impact of things like let her cry it out. What you're teaching that child is you have a need that you cannot verbally communicate and you can't meet for yourself, but oh well, I'm not going to do anything about it. That's how you end up with avoidant behavior or avoidant attachment styles, right? Also, on the other side of that, right? When I'm tired, when I'm anxious, when I'm overwhelmed, am I showing up negatively and impacting her experience with me, right? That's how you end up with anxious attachment styles. Making sure that I am showing up for her as best as I can. And we're going to talk about the other piece of that because it is tiring, it is overwhelming, it is stressful to be a parent. That's why you got to take breaks. But we're going to get into that later. We're going to get into that. I promise you. I promise you. But having that basic understanding of attachment theory has really benefited me as a parent. And what I will say is, so 18 months was about a year ago at the time of the recording, a little bit over a year ago. This past year, I've been able to kind of like put it on cruise control because of the work that I invested in the first 18 months. Once you have your attachment style like set, it would take a massive life event to change it or a lot of self-work, right? So because she's securely attached, it would take a literal traumatic, life-altering experience to break that. The chances of her staying securely attached for the rest of her life are very, very high. I want to say like in the 90s. Literally. So the work that I put in the first 18 months of her life will live with her. There's a great chance that will stick with her for the rest of her life. So now I can parent on cruise control because we have that securely based attachment. And even when she gets in trouble, I am her safe space in this world. Even when I am the one she's in trouble with, she still comes to me for hugs and cuddles and kisses, and I give them. Because why not? That's my kid. That's my kid. Yes, you are in trouble, and I love you, and I'm honored to be your safe space in this world. Both, right? It's not about spoiling a kid, which, for the record, under the age of 1, I do not think it's even possible to spoil a kid. Like, let's be for real. Anyways, but because we have that securely attached relationship, we're able to bond and connect and grow. And as much as it's difficult for me because I am anxiously attached, right? She is free and comfortable to go off into the world. We've never had separation anxiety issues. I remember the first day I dropped her off at daycare. She was 9 months. I was in shambles. Shambles. She was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I literally sobbed on my way to work. And she was so content, had a great day, loved it, right? And I remember talking to someone and they were like, yeah, day one's hardest for the parent, day two is usually hardest for the kid because now they've recognized, like, oh, shoot, mommy's gonna leave. So I'm like bracing myself for day two. I'm like, whew, okay, day two, you good? Like, she's so content. We've had no issues ever with separation anxiety. As long as I tell her goodbye, we're good. Now, I don't do the whole sneak out of the house and all of that because I think that actually contributes to an avoidant attachment style, personally. Um, and there have been people who have been like, "Oh, just go. Shit, we'll distract her." No, I'm gonna say goodbye to my kid because I don't want her to think I'm missing. Like, right? Like, come on now. If you were talking to your mother and then you look up and she disappeared, I need everybody to take a child psychology class. Please, please, please. Like, let's really think about this. Anyways, um, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is really understanding like the body language when it comes to parenting, right? And so when you are, and I heard this on, I think it was on TikTok that I saw it. I don't know. I've lost it physically at this point, but the lesson stuck, right? And it basically was challenging you when your child sees you for the first time. Let's say you just picked them up from school or daycare or whatever. The first time they see you in an extended period of time, several hours, whatever. When your child sees you, what is your body language communicating? When you first see your child or you first pick your kid up from daycare, are you scanning them to see, look for flaws? Why is their hair messed up? Why is there paint all over their clothes? Why is their shoe halfway off? And that's not the hairstyle I sent you to school. Like, are you looking for flaws? Or are you genuinely showing that you are excited to see your kid? Right? It gags me. It gags me. Let me just say, it gags me. But what I am now intentional about with regards to body language and like that first interaction, when I go pick her up at daycare, I'm not talking to the teacher first. I'm not doing anything. So her school has like the window where you can kind of see just a crack through the door or whatever. And so when I see her, as soon as I see her, I get so excited physically. I'm like, oh my God, Kayla! And I'm like banging on the door, and well, not banging, but like tapping on the door and like, really overly excited to see her. And I do this every day without fail. Why? Because I want my daughter's first image of me after several hours at daycare to be my mom is excited to see me. And literally, the moment she sees me, she's like, Mommy! And she beelines to the door, right? It matters. Now, eventually, I get to why is there paint on your clothes? Why is your shoe half off? These are not the clothes I done, sent you to school. That's not the hairstyle I sent you to school in. Talking to the teacher, how did today go? All of that. But the initial contact, my priority is showing my child that I missed her. That's it. And the teachers know this, right? We have our little moment, our over dramatic experience. We hug and kiss and hi Kayla, hi mommy. And then we can talk about how the day went and how potty training went and all of that, right? Priorities. Priorities. Which I really I want people to better understand also. So attachment theory, right? But I'm gonna add another thing that I want people to better understand is love languages. Love languages. Like we get it when it comes to romantic love, but your love language is how you view and experience love across the board. Across the board. And that's also the love you seek from your parents, right? My kid, if you don't know your kid's love language, I need you to figure it out. Thanks. And they actually make online quizzes where you can answer certain questions or even let your kid answer the questions, depending on, like, you put how the age range of your child and all of that. So if you don't understand love languages enough to be able to identify what your child's love language is, definitely understand, like, do the quiz, please, please. However, love languages are so, they show up in all forms of love. It's not romantic love languages, it's your love language. It's how you give and receive love. For example, my primary love language is quality time and acts of service, right? Physical touch is actually at the bottom of the list for me. So, like, it shows up differently, right? But I am aware that my child's primary love language is physical touch and then quality time, right? We can literally be sitting on the couch side by side, spending time together. Because again, we share the love language of quality time, and then she'll randomly put her hand on my leg and just sit there. Don't want anything, don't need anything. Just place her hand on my leg, or come and lay on my arm, right? And so I am mindful of her love languages because it helps me show up and love her the way she wants to be loved. If I had to like list her 5 love languages in order, I think it would be physical touch, quality time, words of affirmations, um, acts of service, and then gift, probably gifts. I think she enjoys gifts, and then acts of service. But understanding what your child's version of love is helps you be more intentional about that, right? Then I want you to, as like another part of intentional parenting for me, also shows up as taking breaks from parenting. Intentional parenting is work. Like, this is work. Okay? Work. And if I do not take a break from it, and when I'm saying break, I am saying like I need to be off duty. Period. I need times with regularity where I am not responsible for my child. Period. And what I have recognized is that when I take breaks, especially when I take them with regularity, I am a better mother for it. Truly. I am a better mother because I'm not worn out. I'm not exhausted. I'm not overwhelmed. And for the new moms, come here. The earlier you take the breaks, the easier it is to take breaks. Don't wait until your kid's 3 and then be like, ugh, I'm so tired. I need a break. No, 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 no. When your kid is like 3 months, take a break. Honestly, my first weekend away from her, I had an emergency out of town when she was probably about 4 weeks old. Me and her father, when we were together, we did a 6 weeks post baby moon. So, after 6 weeks, you can do some things, right? So we did a 6 week post baby moon. And then around the like 2.5 month mark, I had a really, really, really dark space as far as postpartum depression. And I just checked into a hotel for a weekend. And this was actually that hotel weekend was the weekend I realized like, oh, I'm a better mom when I take breaks, right? And what I realized, she was fed breast milk, but I was exclusively pumping, right? And so that weekend, I actually doubled my production simply for no reason other than I had a break. Like I didn't do anything different. I didn't, you know, but I was able to sleep uninterrupted. I was able to focus on me. I was able to have fun, do what I wanted. And that was the moment was like, oh, when I'm okay, when I'm in a good space, I'm actually able to be a better mother. Now that's the one example where it's like a physical difference and you can like tangibly see compare and contrast, right? But I literally doubled my standard production of breast milk simply because I was on a break. Mm-hmm. Take breaks, please, please. It makes you a better mother. And when I take those breaks, I'm always intentional to make sure that the person who has her is like, oh my God, I can't wait to spend time with Kayla this weekend. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do it. Like, so she's still with either immediate family or a very, very, very close friend. But she is with someone who loves her. She's with someone who is excited to be with her. So when I'm, for example, I went to Toronto to see Beyonce Renaissance tour, and I'm still on cloud nine. Like the concert that came and went about 6, 7 months ago, but I'm having a great weekend with my best friend, and she's having a great weekend with her grandfather. And they done went here, they done went there, they done went everywhere. Okay, everywhere. And so her experience does not diminish simply because I needed a break. In fact, it's probably better. Like she's probably had more fun that weekend, right? Than sitting up at the house with me. So just really being intentional about yes, my kid is number one, and I'm a close second. I have to take care of me to make sure that I'm able to take care of her. Parents who feel like I feel like on social media, there's this whole like either your kid comes first and nothing you want matters, or I gotta live my life and I'm gonna drop my kids off whenever I feel like it. Like there's a middle, right? And so for me, yes, my kid comes first and she should come first. She did not ask to be here. She cannot meet her own needs. My kid comes first. And I'm a close second. So as long as her needs are being met, mental and needs are mental, emotional, physical, financial, educational, all of her needs, right? Not just physical. Okay? Once her needs are met, I then can focus on mine. So a lot of my self-care takes place while she's at daycare. A lot of it. Just what it is. Um, if I want to go out of town for this, that, or the third, I make sure she's with someone who's also excited to take care of her needs, not somebody who's willing to do it just because I asked and well, I gotta do this and I gotta do this and just yeah, I'll watch her. Nah, it's okay. I live in the state that I live in specifically because within a 30-minute radius, I have 10 blood related to her babysitters and about 15 if I include like immediate close friends that I trust with my child, right? So if I got 15 babysitters in a 30 to 45-minute radius, I don't need you watching her because, yeah, just bring her over. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Nah. I'll go to the next person like, absolutely. I would love to watch Kayla this weekend. We're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. Boom. Problem solved, right? Now, the last thing I want to talk about with regards to intentional parenting is the terrible twos. I get this question a lot. My daughter, like I said, is at the time of this recording is about 2.5. I get this question a lot. How are the terrible twos? How are the terrible twos? How are the terrible twos? Oh my gosh, how are the terrible twos? They're not that big. They're not that big. They're really not that big. And I think in large part because one, I've been such an intentional parent with her over, the past 2.5 years. But I think the other part of it is really recognizing that the terrible twos are truly just, it's about energy management more than anything, right? Understanding that my child is a human and she is entitled to human emotions. And it is my job as her personal emotional coach. Like, I literally view myself as her God assigned emotional coach. It is my job to walk her through the process of discovering emotion. And when you look at it that way, it's really not that terrible. And also, recognizing that when my child has a tantrum, a lot of the times it's because she has a need but cannot understand how to verbally communicate that need. Language is still new for her, right? Like she's doing well in language development, but sometimes she forgets that she knows certain words or phrases. So we just walk through it. When she starts screaming, "Are you hungry? Are you hurt? Do you need a hug? Are you thirsty? Do you want a snack? Do you want cuddles? Do you want to get down? You want to be picked up?" Like we go through the guessing game, and I promise you, once we figure out what that is, the tantrum stops. I promise you, there has not been not one tantrum over the course of the past 2.5 years that have not been stopped by meeting a need. Literally. My child has never cried without a need being associated with it, right? And once you figure out what that need is, she stops. Now, sometimes it's a little harder than others for me to figure out what the need is. Like, I remember one time I couldn't figure it out. She was crying, wouldn't stop. And at the time, she was still on her using a bottle. And I'm like, I'm giving her a bottle. She would drink it. It would slow her down. And then she would scream again. Days go by, we discover she has a geographic tongue. How painful is that? So, for those of you who don't know, geographic tongue is basically like a rash on your tongue. So every time she had the pacifier in, it would soothe her emotionally, but then it would hurt her physically. But she can't communicate, "Mommy, my tongue hurts," right? So in the moment, it felt like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Right? So there was only 2 times that I felt like I can't figure out what the problem is. And that was it. And it was a geographic tongue. Literally. Literally. So by the time we figured out, we go to urgent care, fix it. Right? Move on. The only other time I remember her crying uncontrollably or unconsolably, it ended up being colic. Like there's always an answer, right? So, yes, she has tantrums. And yes, she has emotional moments. I'm her mother, for crying out loud. She's going to be emotional. It is what it is, right? But because I take breaks, because I'm in therapy regularly, because I journal, because I take care of myself, I actively practice self care, my emotions are regulated enough where I can help coach her through her emotions. Sometimes it's, "I'm scared." Okay. The solution to that, we do the whole swipe or no swiping. If it's, sometimes at night the hallways get dark and all that stuff. So we just literally swipe or no swiping, swipe or no swiping, swipe or no swiping. Shout out to Dora. She ain't never seen an episode of Dora, but I've seen an episode of Dora and it works. Okay. And then literally we do our little swipe or no swiping and it's like, "I'm better." It works, right? She's sad. You need hugs. You need cuddles. You need kisses. You need tickles, right? When I'm noticing that she's a little frustrated or overwhelmed, we do some yoga, we do deep breaths, right? When she hurts herself, we hit inanimate objects in this house. If she hits her foot on the dresser, we are hitting the dresser and telling it, "Be nice." Because be nice. Why would you hit my kid? I don't know if that's effective, but it works. Well, I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to do, but it's effective, right? So I allow her emotions to be emotions. It's okay. It doesn't bother me that she experiences emotions. My goal as her emotional coach is to teach her the name for that emotion and the solution. There have been times where she's walked up to me, grabbed my hands, and just closed her eyes and did deep breaths. And I'm like, "I know that's right, Stinker. You needed a break and we gonna take it. We gonna take it together, right?" Or she'll just randomly start doing some yoga poses, right? It's beautiful to watch her use the tools that I've taught her. But I literally, you have to, and then sometimes she'll walk. I'm like this morning, she woke up. She's like, "Mommy, mommy," and I go in the room. She's like, "I'm sad," and I'm like, "Well, why are you sad? What's wrong?" And then we went through, the trial and error on the solutions and figured out one that worked. And even when I asked her, I'm like, "You good?" Sometimes she says yes, all good. Sometimes she said no, and I'm like, "Well, what's wrong?" Like, I don't try to tell her you're fine, get over it. I'm like, okay, well, let's problem solve. What's going on? You hungry? You thirsty? You need a snack? You want a hug? You want to play? You want to tickle? You want to dance? Like, there's so many potential solutions. Let's pick one. Let's see what works, right? So, I that's all I got on intentional parenting. I hope that this message helped you in some tangible way. Whether you're a veteran mom, a new mom, soon to be mom, whatever place you land in the realm of parenting or motherhood, I really really hope that at least one thing in this message has helped you. Please do me a favor and share this video with someone that you know needs this information, whether they fit whatever category it is, right? Maybe it's a grandparent that needs to hear this message as well. Please, please, please share this with someone so that they are able to receive this information. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel. We will be dropping videos every Monday, and hit the bell so you get the notification so you know exactly when the next video has dropped. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Tiara Nicole Riley. And until next week, thanks, guys.